Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the second episode of going through all the procedure tabs. Today we will be starting out with entity management and going down through the list. I hope you all enjoy. Next up is entity management. You can deal a certain number of damage to a provided entity, and that, I believe, is half a heart, is 1. 2 would be a full heart. You can also set the health of a provided entity. You can set it to 0 if you want him to die immediately on hitting him with anything. Or you can set it really high. You can also set a provided entity on fire for a set number of time. You can extinguish an entity from being on fire. You can move a provided entity, teleporting. You can shoot an arrow with speed 1 damage and knockback. Personally, I would wish that you could shoot anything, not just arrows, but that's just me, I believe. Switching a dimension for a provided entity, meaning you teleport them out of one dimension, like the overworld, to like the nether dimension, and he'll keep the same coordinates, I believe. Anyway, you can override a fall distance with a 0 or any number of blocks for the next tick. You can get the armor value of a provided entity. You can get an item in the main hand of the entity or the offhand. So, yeah. Next up is player management. And this is where you can open GUIs. This block here is where you can open GUIs for a player. Any of your custom GUIs. No vanilla GUIs, unfortunately. You can set the game mode of the provided player too, and I haven't actually looked at these. There's no set. Survival, creative, adventure, and spectator. The usual. And you can add an achievement. This is your custom achievements when you create them. You can add a potion level with level 1 duration, and this is in ticks, not seconds. And 60 ticks is, I believe, 3 seconds. So 20 ticks would be 1 second. And you can choose from a bunch of different potions. You can clear the inventory of an entity. That makes certain things very dangerous for the player, because then they lose everything if you put it towards a player entity. You can remove a set item from the player's entity. You can add a set number of an item to a player's inventory. Yeah, and this one, this category is rather large compared to some of the others. So next up is you can send a message to provided entity, and you type out the message, and you can show it in an action bar, and that's a true or false, because the action bar is set to a boolean in this case. You can allow an entity to fly if true or otherwise. You can make a provided entity fly. You can disable damage of the provided entity if you can edit this true, and otherwise enable it, meaning you can say you were putting it on a zombie. You can't do that, or custom mob. And if the mob was hitting the player 1 minute and then this block gets run, the entity can no longer hurt anything else. You can allow an entity to build, and that only works with the player, I believe. Otherwise don't. Is a part of it. And then next is has provided entity in inventory. That searches your entire inventory, what you're wearing, what's in your offhand, what's in your main inventory, what's in your hotbar. Just searches everything. Is player in creative mode. This is helpful for like if you have some removing a set number of items from a player's inventory, and you don't want that to happen while the player is in creative mode. You can use the not function here, and then right after that the is player in creative mode. So that would be not if player is not in creative mode. So that is player. Next is block notifications. This is a very small one. You can set the light value of a block, set the provided block's resistance value. That is how resistant it is to explosions. You can set the redstone power logic state. That's just redstone power if it's on or off. You can set, there's item modifications, dealing amount of damage to an item, setting the damage, the provided item's damage to a set number, and these are, the green bar that changes colors on tools? That's what this edits, I believe. Setting the provided entity's display name, and that, with this you can create items that have custom names. Sadly, you can't change the color of the name, but you can change the display name. GUI management is up next, and this is very similar to some of the things in block actions, but as it says up here, when using block inventory, use block actions instead for better compatibility. And yes, this is true. If you're not using a inventory that's attached to a block, but instead the GUI, you will need to use this. And so you can clear a slot of an inventory, and you have to type out the name of the inventory. You can set a number of items in a certain slot of an inventory. Again, you have to type it out. You can remove an item from a slot of an inventory, typing it out again. Deal damage to an item in slots of the inventory, again typing out, and that'll be for everything in this where it says inherited. Get item from a slot. You can get number of items from the slot. You can text inside text field. Now this is what I believe. Get number from text. Then right after that, you put text inside text field. And you can do certain things with that. Okay, Next up is Minecraft components, and that is a block/item, block coordinate, relative coordinate values, and current entity. And those can be used for a multitude of different things. Next is custom variables. This can be the global variables. Well, these are the global variables here, unless you edit, or I should say add local variables over here where my mouse is very much spinning around. Anyway, that is that, and those can be numbers, booleans where they're true or false, or the last type, which I forget what it is, a string. So a string would be a list, I believe. A string is a list of different things. So yeah, that's custom variables. Next up is logic loops, and this is the if things. So whenever you heard me saying if a certain other thing, you have to use the if block to get that. So say if was the last thing I saw. Yes, if player is in creative mode, do this. Or you can have the if player is not in creative mode, and you can do different things inside of that. Okay, next up is the boolean true or false, and that is used in a plethora of other areas, as you have seen. There is repeat a number of times. You will have to input a number into there. And you can also do while player is in creative mode, or plethora of other things. It does this. Otherwise, it just continues on. You can also use this block. This block is handy. You can break out of a loop or continue to the next iteration. This is used in the repeat a number of times. So like if you have multiple if statements in there, you can say that it breaks out of the entire loop, and instead of continuing on looping right here, it'll continue on. Or continue to the next iteration. So let's say I have let's say I have this set up. So repeats a number of times, and it just repeats. And then you have this first if statement. If this certain thing is true, then it continues to the next iteration. This means it does not do this second if. It goes to repeat again. And if this is constantly true, it'll just go like this until the number of times is done. So yeah, that is logic and loops. Next is logic operations. These are things that you can put on the if statement and the while statement, as well as the not statement. And this first block is very handy if certain things equal one another or not equal. It can be if this and this, or this and this, or this not or this. And the not or this, I don't really get why you need to use that, but I'm sure there is a use out there somewhere. Next up is the number comparator, and this is equals, not equals, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. And this works only for numbers, while the other one does not work for numbers. And this next one is for string statements, I believe. If you noticed, it matches up with the different colors. So yeah, these are numbers, these are booleans, which are true or false statements. And then these are the, what were they again? Strings. So yeah, I haven't personally used that block, but I'm sure there are people that have. Next up is a block that uses, again, other things. So like from block actions, you can get block at and place it in there, and then use the Mcreator component for a block and place it on the other side, and place that in front of an if statement or a while statement. And this this next block is set to something where it's a block in this state, so that includes metadata and whatnot. This is that means that this is a little more restricted than this up here. Next is the same things, but for items. And then after that is an entity, a subtype of a certain entity, custom or not. And I'm not sure what this does. It's a new logic statement, so I'm not fully in the know of what that specifically does. Okay, now we've already gone over math, so I'll skip that. Next is text, and there's where you type in the text, and then there's this create text with, and it has different things that you can do with it. There's also the length of, and print. I haven't fully used all of these, so I don't know what all of them do. And then next up is the advanced stuff, and which use dependencies, call procedures. Calling procedures actually isn't that advanced. It just pretty much, you've created this other procedure that you want to use in this procedure. So it pretty much just does that. And you can also call the procedure at certain coordinates. Yeah, you can use custom code. If you're into code, you can use that. Command parameters. I'm not quite sure what that does, but okay. Yeah. So that's pretty much everything. Now I want to talk about this little gear that's in a couple things. The things that I know that they're in is the if and the create text with. Now this gear is really helpful. You can add else if and else to, pretty much making your if statements forever long, or as long as you want. Yeah. And then the create text with, this just adds more inserting to your thing, and you can even just get rid of them. I don't know how that works, but it does. Okay, so that has been all of these different things, I have explained roughly what they do. Some of them I don't know what specifically they do, but I can give you generalities of what they do. Next episode for procedures will be the template library, and that will be coming out this Friday. So stay tuned for that, and if you're new, consider subscribing. If you found this helpful, like the video, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day. This has been the User of Bricks.